Hello, listeners. It's Friday. I'm Timstradamus, and with me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome all listeners to Friday, where we've completed another week of faking adulthood.
Nice. Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for thought.
Well, let's get into the stories while I enjoy my morning cuppa brew.
What are you going to enjoy this weekend?
Blueberry lavender tea.
Ooh, floral. That's a bit different. Well, let's go ahead and start these colorful stories. For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for telling my significant other to not enter my info into horoscope apps? My significant other is really into astrology and horoscopes. I think it's fun and kind of neat to hear the different theories. However, the information apps and websites ask for is so personal. I told my girlfriend to not enter in this information because it's sensitive info. However, I feel like an a-hole for kind of putting down her hobby. The apps are requesting first and last name, birth city and state, birth time, full birth date, gender. I feel like this is excessive for a horoscope, as this is all info from my birth certificate. Am I the a-hole?
So I guess you can look at this from two perspectives. One, he could be the a-hole because he has the right to feel a certain way about his information being out. But he lives in the modern world and all our information is everywhere anyway. So that would make you the a-hole.
Actually, they say it doesn't make him the a-hole.
Can I take it back?
No. The only reason why it doesn't make him the a-hole is because it really is his information.
Yeah, I can feel that.
It's up to him to go ahead and put it into these apps. And if he doesn't feel like it, then he doesn't need to. Now, it had some people questioning why it was that he was doing these horoscope readings with his girlfriend if he didn't seem to want to put his information down. A lot of people did put in, it's not like they're asking for your social security number. And as you said, all of our information is out there in one way, shape, or form. Yep. However, he said, while a lot of it seems to be more generic paragraphs, he likes doing this because it's a way for him to connect with his girlfriend.
That's sweet.
It's just another way to go ahead and sort of express each other. And he feels that it's almost therapeutic, even though he really himself doesn't truly believe in it. However, it's nice to actually see somebody who's taking up a little hobby and seems to be interested in something that's sort of out of his wheelbarrow.
Sure, we do that for our loved ones.
Wheelhouse.
I think that's a sweet gesture. You should definitely be trying to get into things that you may not have thought otherwise, especially if it's something that gives you another thing to connect with your girlfriend, husband, what have you.
Yes, one of the things that he said specifically is he says it's a great way to build a relationship because she brings up topics of compatibility, stresses, strengths, and weaknesses. And while he says it may be phony to him, it helps them connect as a real couple.
Yep, you're saying to her that what she enjoys and puts her time into, you also respect. And that's always a good thing to do with your partner.
Well, I know this was a fun story to sort of start off our hopefully fun weekend, but unfortunately I have to bring us down to some reality. Let's go into some dramatic family issues. For our next story, am I the a-hole for telling my mom to pay me more and find a new babysitter? I, 17 male, have been babysitting my 14-year-old brother for about 7 months now. I live in a rural area with him, my mother, 36 female, and my brother's father. His father works 12 hours a day, and my mother works 8 to 10 hours. I wake up 4 to 5 days a week at 6 a.m. and watch my brother until somewhere between 5 to 7 p.m. For this, I get paid $150 a week for what is essentially 50 to 60 hours a week, where I can't do anything I would like to do. Today, I had an argument with my mom, and I told her she either needs to start paying me more or find someone else to babysit. Now, don't get me wrong. In no way am I implying babysitting is a hard job. It's the fact I am giving away my freedoms of going anywhere, seeing my friends, meeting new people, and even regular daily things like exercise and laundry become 10 times harder when I spend 12 hours a day trying to keep an infant happy. It's extremely stressful for me considering I've never babysat a day in my life prior to this. I mean, I can't even make enough to save up for a decent car currently. I live about 40 minutes from anyone I know, so I need a ride literally anywhere. I explained this all to my mother, along with the fact I could work part-time and make twice what I make in a week currently, or I could work full-time and attempt to move out into my own place, but all she seems to say is I'm ungrateful and I'm lucky to get paid at all. She said that she's going to need me to babysit until the baby can go to school during the day, which means she's expecting me to give up my freedoms until I'm literally 21. It's a frustrating situation. Her and the baby's father fight almost constantly, so I don't even really want to live here anyways. I have multiple friends who have offered to let me rent a room in their home, so the only reason I'm really doing this is to help my mom. But at what point do I have to stop being nice and look out for my best interests? In my eyes, I do not owe her nor the baby anything. I love my brother, but I have goals that cannot be accomplished if I'm spending the next 3 to 4 years giving up my freedoms with little to show for it. I turn 18 in 2 months. My mother has done very little to help set me up for adulthood. Things like canceling my appointment to get my learner's permit because she didn't feel like driving me. She never seems to try and make an effort for things I need done, and never seems to appreciate the sacrifices I am making for her. She thinks I'm just looking for a reason to complain. She doesn't seem to understand the fact that my brother is not my child. He is not my responsibility. I love him to death, but I can't keep doing this if I want to do anything with my life. Am I the a-hole?
Spicy meatball time. This is a 17-year-old for clarification.
Correct.
Very aware 17-year-old. Good for you. It already sounds like you have a decent head on your shoulders. You're ready to roll, man. It sounds like you're itching for it. And that's a good place to be when you're 17. So go with your gut. You say you're about to be 18 in 2 months. You're almost legal, homie. So ride it out. You got 2 more months. I mean, you say you already have friends that are offering to rent out a room to you. That's fantastic. You point out some very easy numbers for us. You could probably work full time and make more than what your mom's paying you. You are not that child's dad. You're not that parent. You shouldn't be in that home putting that much time into babysitting. I understand babysitting every once in a while to fit the gaps. I thought that's what this story was going to be about when you read me the title. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about full-on childcare.
Correct.
I don't care how tough it is for the parents. It sounds like they're both working long shifts. That sucks. But it's your choice to have that baby. Now it's your choice and your responsibility to figure out how to take care of them while you're working. It is not your almost grown son's responsibility to hang out at the house till he's 21. Those are important years to figure out your life, getting on the right path. It sounds like he's ready for it, and I'm excited for him. So good for you. Keep your head up. Stick your foot in the ground, even if it is going ahead and moving out to one of your friends' places, getting a job, and renting it till you figure out what the next step is. Because all it sounds like is she's trying to keep you in there to be almost basically free childcare, because what she's paying you is not what that job is worth. So yeah, you're definitely not the a-hole, buddy. Just keep your head up. I would definitely look about getting out of that situation sooner rather than later. Yeah, don't feel an onus to your mother and her plight. Yes, it's a rough situation. Yeah, you're not the a-hole.
Well, all of the Redditors also say he's not the a-hole. In fact, a lot of people were saying, don't try and call a bluff when it comes to your mother. Go ahead and get your social security card, get your birth certificate, start gathering up those important documents because you're going to need them when you turn 18.
You hit 18.
And if she's going to try and keep you in the house, she might do
something rotten with them.
Exactly. Either she'll destroy them, hide them, whatever it is, she'll try and use it to hold over his head. And that's the last thing people want. Other people suggested that he take the money that he's already earned, put it in an account she doesn't have access to, and password lock everything. Because clearly she doesn't have his best intentions in mind.
Nope, just free childcare.
Well, let's go to this next story about babysitting again, and let's see how they do. For our next story, am I the a-hole for interrupting my son's date so he could pick up his little sister? I'm a single father, 43 male, to 2 children, Max 17 male and Lisa 8 female. I usually have Lisa in after school clubs so that I'm able to pick her up after work. However, last evening I was given some work that had me working overtime. I did try my best to negotiate out of it, but my manager told me that the assignment was to be completed by that night, so I just did. It was nearing towards 6 p.m. and I just knew I wouldn't be able to make it to Lisa, so I called Max and asked him to pick her up. He responded by saying that he couldn't because he was on a date with his girlfriend for their 6-month anniversary. I told him that I understood, but that I really needed him to get Lisa and that I'd make it up to him for interrupting. He just angrily turned off the phone, and I thought that while he was mad, he had just decided to pick her up. 30 minutes later, I received a call from Lisa's school on where I was because the school was close to closing down and no one was there. Luckily, one of Lisa's friend's mother said that they drop her off and that was all good. However, I don't like it when Lisa goes with that particular friend, not because of the friend, but because of the mother. She has this habit of asking math questions in the car that she knows Lisa is unable to answer and then criticizes her over it. It's all just very mean. I called Max and asked him where he was and that he was in big trouble when he got home. He just told me that he was busy and to leave him the hell alone. He came home around 9 p.m. I told him he was grounded and that he was not allowed to use the car for a good 3 weeks. At that, he got all mad and said that it wasn't his fault I was failing as a parent and unable to afford someone to collect Lisa. Just want some insight on this situation. Was I being harsh and am I the a-hole for interrupting his date? Edit. This is the third time I've asked Max to pick up his sister in the span of a year and a half. Some people are asking why I don't have a nanny. Money is tight. Max and Lisa's mother is not present in their lives. And no, I did not think of socializing myself with the parents at Lisa's school. I am at work most times, so I haven't found time outside of the yearly parent meetings. Please refrain from insulting my son.
Okay, so sounds like OP is trying to be a good dad. He's trying to juggle everything. Money's tight. I can understand that. He says he asks his son, who is 17, in about a year and a half span, 3 times to help pick up his sister when he couldn't be because of work obligations.
Correct.
Okay. I'm not gonna go into insulting the son. He asks, I wouldn't have insulted him to begin with, but I understand. Although, I guess I'll say it like this. When the emergency happens, to not, especially when it's only 3 times that this has even happened in that span of time, I don't feel like that's too much to ask for. I don't care if it was during someone's date. That's your little sister. She's 8 years old. Now, yeah, he does bring it up, or Redditors bring it up. Why wasn't he making connections with people in and around the school system, parents? So that way, if such an event arises again, at least there's a backup to the backup. He says that the person who does volunteer, she doesn't like her very much because she's mean to his daughter. Brings up math questions and I guess hurts her feelings with the fact that she can't answer them.
Correct. But I'm guessing from what it sounds like is she asks her questions where she knows she can't answer.
It's a deliberate attack.
It's a humiliating tactic.
To make her, which is very unfortunate. I don't know why you do that to a kid.
Some people are cruel.
That blows my mind. I gotta say, though, I don't think the dad in this situation, OP, is the a-hole. I think when you're called upon, when it's so little. We're not asking for a bunch of other things. Yep, I can hear the argument where, you're parentifying that child. And, stop. He should be helping out when he can, especially when the situation, he knows what the situation is. It might be tough, but apparently his son has a car, right? He's provided, I'm assuming. Now, we don't know the facts, I guess. I don't know if the son is working and he bought the car himself.
I don't think that's the case.
But
I think it was actually
has provided his 17-year-old son, when money is tight, with a car.
Which is why he revoked those privileges.
He has every right to. You have a car. I'm certain that when he dubbed the car to the 17-year-old, he probably said, hey, buddy, I want you to have this car. It's good that you're driving at this age. Also, when it does get tight, when I need you, please be there to help me with your sister. I'm almost certain that was a conversation that happened. I don't see why that's a bad thing to have stopped what you were doing. I know it was in the middle of a date, but it's your sister. She's 8. Your dad's going through some stuff, trying to juggle it all because your mom is not present.
It's rough.
I think your son, he is a 17-year-old, but he is selfish. And I'm shocked that there's not more perspective at that point, especially when you guys are all going through what you're going through.
I think it was harsh for him to say that he's failing as a parent when he's just trying to provide as one.
That's disgusting for a 17-year-old to have that opinion about someone that's, again, obviously, it depends on the situation. Right? We're not talking about a 17-year-old saying that to an addict parent. We're saying that to someone who's genuinely trying. I think he's definitely the son in this situation is the a-hole, not the OP.
Well, all of Redditors also say that our poster is not the a-hole. And let me go ahead and provide you a little bit more insight on to what commenters say. For this one, they go, okay, I'll take the bullet here. Not the a-hole. You're not failing as a parent. You had to work overtime, not go out drinking or off. Your son was in the wrong here for not helping, turning the phone off and calling you out for it. But you two need to talk this out and discuss expectations. If you expect him to be part of the contingency plans, there needs to be crystal clear on that and what happens to car privies when he doesn't.
Yep. That's why I said I'm betting that there was a conversation already about that, but kid wanted to be a kid.
And then let me go ahead and read this one because I think it's very interesting what this commenter put down. Posts like this makes me feel hopeless for us as a society, as a species. You'll get a lot of responses from people who haven't raised kids, many still who are kids, and they haven't been taught responsibility and family. Asking your son to help on an unexpected situation is not and should not be a problem. Your son's response is entitled and gross, honestly. While being disappointed at the interruption would be fine, even appropriate, hanging up on you is disrespectful, and refusing to help is selfish and disgusting. Like societies, family only works when everyone contributes. Your son using your car is a privilege, not a right, and it's up to you to extend that privilege to him or not. The hanging up on you and the disrespectful way he spoke to you is all on its own enough reason to, at the very least, suspend that privilege. You do not have to tolerate disrespect, no matter how upset he was. Also, financial woes do not indicate how good or bad someone is at parenting, something your son is going to be painfully aware of very soon. If you give him money for allowance or anything else, help him learn by suspending that privilege as well. This is a teachable moment. Let him see there are consequences for his choices. Please, I implore you to ignore the ridiculous comments here that are characterizing asking for help as any other than that. You should be able to ask your family for help, including your nearly grown son. Do not listen to anyone who says otherwise. There's a difference between asking for help in an unexpected pinch and forcing him to be a regular unpaid babysitter. Do not listen to the bullshit. You are not the a-hole, and I hope like hell you stick to your guns about the car privileges being suspended. His behavior was selfish and disrespectful, and he needs to experience consequences for that. Also, inform your employer that you have responsibilities at home that take precedence, and you require advance notice of any extra hours required or you won't be available. They cannot expect you to scramble to find childcare at the last possible moment.
Good advice. And I full-heartedly agree. I think we're getting into this culture where if you ask a kid to do anything, that it's parentifying them so terribly that you're going to hurt their childhood.
I think there are cases like that, but not everything should be generalized under one swath.
Where everything, even if you ask for a tight pinch, that you are now a bad parent. People need to stop that, because now I'm betting other parents out there probably feel like maybe they are, just for asking a favor or anything of a child now is something that they have to worry about. I think that's ridiculous, because you're seeing it through this guy with this situation. If that situation did not garner that, could you imagine all the other ones? Like, that's crazy that we're in a culture now where, and this person is right, that's family. That's why I said it. She's 8, you're 17 and have a car that you did not provide for yourself. You have responsibilities. That's how it works. That's life. But now you have this whole swath of people that if a kid is inconvenienced just a little bit, you're a bad parent. I think that's ridiculous.
I think it's hurtful, especially towards a single parent that's trying their hardest.
Hopefully the kid learns, and yeah, there needs to be consequences for your actions.
Well, we had a lot of family drama happening, so let's go to school. For our next story, am I the a-hole for disciplining a student after he left my class to use the restroom when I told him he could not? This may be a bit long. Sorry, I am still new to this app. Anyways, I am a high school teacher, junior English. There is one student in my class who I am not particularly fond of. He's very bright. He just talks a lot and gets distracted easily, and as a result distracts his classmates. Earlier today, he asked me if he could use the restroom, and I told him no, and that he should have used it earlier. He looked at me confused and left anyways. I was in disbelief. When he came back, I asked him why had he left when I told him he couldn't. He asked me if I expected him to hold it for the rest of class time, which would have been around half an hour. He also informed me that he never thought asking for the restroom was for permission's sake anyways, as no teacher had ever told him no. I didn't really care for his excuses, so I told him he was being disobedient and would call his mother. He shrugged and said she'd be on his side anyways. I called her, and she asked was there a specific reason I wouldn't let him go. I responded no, and she said she would have walked out too, and to stop being so petty and controlling as to not let near adults use the restroom. This annoyed me, and I later asked my husband about it. He also asked my reason for not letting him go, and upon not providing one, also sided with the student. I'm very confused by this. Students should respect a teacher's authority. I'm only posting here because everyone seems to be aiding against me. Am I the a-hole?
There's a reason. I can understand the viewpoint of, because see, when we grew up, you always had that one teacher that came in the room, and normally the only teachers that really had a problem with, well, from my perspective anyway, only teachers that really had a problem from kids not obeying them were like substitute teachers, where they were like coming in and they needed that stern understanding that this is my room now. I don't know what your other teacher did prior.
Yeah.
But I'm here today. And then you'd have kids poke at them and ask them things like that. Can I go to the bathroom? And then they go, no. And the kid goes, why? Because I said so. That is the worst reason to give anyone, because that's what this is. You don't go to the bathroom because I said so. He needs to go to the bathroom. Are you expecting him to shit himself? You know, like, at that point, you already start the thing off. You only said no to this child because you didn't like him. You said it. It's in there. Because I bet had that been any other child in the room, you'd have been, go ahead. Because there was no good reason for it. It sounds like you need to see it through everyone else's perspective, because everyone else around you is also telling you that you're power grabbing and you should have just let the kid go to the bathroom and avoid all of this. Instead, you called his parent, and the parent already told you that they would have walked out as well. Yeah, this one's just a bad one on you. Hopefully you learn from it, though.
So, this teacher actually took down their post when they started seeing all the "you're the a-holes."
When they were getting dunked on?
And a lot of people were actually very upset with this. In fact, one comment got a little award. They took the insert from our poster that says, "Students should respect a teacher's authority." And the commenter said, "That was your reason, and that's not okay." Another person said that she's high on a power trip. A lot of people actually responded with, there have been bad teachers that they've encountered. And there was actually one teacher who posted on there and said they can't imagine a school system letting this happen. But surprisingly, it does happen where there are bad teachers and they do kind of go on power trips. And unfortunately, a lot of students just deal with it in this next generation coming up. It's not like that where they'll deal with it quietly.
Power, man. They got the power. They've been told. They've been taught differently. If you have to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. It is weird that we're even in a day and age where like you even have to ask, but that at some point will change too. So yeah, I think the teacher's very old school, too old school for her own good. That's funny though. She deleted the second she started getting all the hate. Like, what were you expecting when everyone else in your life, in your hemisphere, was telling you you're wrong? You go to the internet. I don't know. You got what you got. You got embarrassed by the kid and the parent.
Well, that was an interesting take on class and authority. Let's see what happens in this next story with authority. For our next story, am I the a-hole for cutting my niece's hair? My 5-year-old niece had very long, beautiful hair. She only ever had a trim once since being born, prior to me cutting it. I would say that my sister is weirdly attached to the idea of my niece having long hair, and everyone seems to make a big fuss about how pretty it is. Like, strangers would even point it out and compliment her. I honestly find it a little creepy. Anyway, last weekend my sister asked me to babysit while her and my brother-in-law had a date night. I spend lots of time with my niece, and I have noticed on several occasions that she will get super frustrated with her hair. Like, she'll be trying to play or run around and it'll get in the way and she just gets really upset. She will sometimes see someone on TV with shorter hair and then express that she likes that hairstyle. I've asked my sister more than once if she would ever consider having my niece's hair cut shorter since she's shown interest in it, and my sister immediately shuts it down. Her excuse is always that my niece is too young to make big decisions about her hair and that she would probably get upset and eventually miss her long hair. Now, going back to last weekend, I took my niece out to do a few activities and once again noticed she was getting frustrated with her hair. She asked me to help her tie it up to keep it from getting in the way. Later on, at my apartment, I put on YouTube Kids for her. The girl in the video she was watching had shoulder-length hair, and my niece expressed that she liked it. I've been cutting my own hair for a few years now, and I've gotten pretty decent at it. I asked my niece if she wanted me to give her a haircut, and she agreed without hesitation. I ended up cutting quite a bit, just past her shoulders with layers. It looked super cute, and she really liked it. I also saved the long locks that I cut off just because I was preparing for my sister's wrath, and said she's been so obsessed with my niece's hair, I thought she might want to keep it. My sister was pissed when she came to pick up my niece. She was so angry and upset that she actually started to cry. I tried to be rational with her and pretty much explained that my niece liked it and that more importantly, it was more comfortable for her now. My sister called me an a-hole and said that I was a terrible person for cutting my niece's hair without getting her permission. My parents are mostly on my sister's side in that they think I at least should have asked first. In my defense, I know she would have said no, and I've been feeling bad for my niece because her hair is always getting in the way. Am I the a-hole?
All right. We'll start with what you said at the end. In my defense, I know she would say no. You're very cognitive. You're an adult. You shouldn't have done it. That's not your child. You didn't consult anyone. It's not one of those gray areas. Not your kid, not your choice. Yeah, it sounds like the whole weird mindset of having very long hair when they're young. I can agree with that. Trying to make it better for the child because it's getting in the way, and I can understand all of those arguments. They make logical sense. But the only illogical thing is it's not your child. End of story. So you definitely the a-hole. That weird thing, I kept the locks because I know she cares about the hair. Like, maybe you have a problem with long hair. Maybe that's the issue. I don't know.
Maybe she was a little jealous of this little girl getting a lot of attention.
Maybe. I don't know if that's where I want to go with that, but we'll try it. Maybe. But you're not the parent. Keep your hands off. Any big decisions like that, if it doesn't go through the parent, you shouldn't do it. I think the OP in this situation doesn't respect boundaries. That's what that shows me. She knew that the no's were already in place. All the stop guards for her to not do it were there, yet she pushed past it. I don't know if OP's family can trust her with her niece anymore because of that. I wouldn't. I'm shocked.
Oh, hands down, I definitely wouldn't.
Like, you're definitely the a-hole. You're probably not going to see your niece for a little while, and maybe it teaches you a lesson for thinking you're doing the right thing for someone else's child.
Well, after this post got a resounding "you're the a-hole," they took it down.
Yes.
So apparently there was some remorse there, and
Good.
they wanted the evidence taken away. However, we do have some commenters that said some pretty funny stuff.
Let's hear it.
The first one being, in my defense, I know she would have said no, so you did it anyway? Wow. In terms of foolery, this is leveling up.
Yeah.
The other one went, exactly. Also, the niece never asked for it. OP asked her. How is a 5-year-old going to refuse an adult? How's that consents? You're the a-hole and a very entitled one.
Well, hopefully she immediately read those and deleted it. Is that what you said?
Yes.
That's hilarious.
Well, now we're going to our last story of the day. Let's see what happens with these other kids. For our last story, am I the a-hole for making my 12-year-old son take care of himself and his 10-year-old brother for a week? I came home about a month ago and caught my son yelling at his mom about his clothes. He was asking her how hard it was to make sure his clothes were cleaned. I took him to the laundry room and made him do laundry for the family. I taught him what clothes could go together and what should not. My wife is a teacher and she works her ass off to make sure we have a nice home to live in. She tells me what she needs me to do and I take care of it. Beyond my share of housework, I mean. Well, my kids need to be punished and I thought of the best possible way to do it. I'm sending my wife to Mexico with her school friends over spring break. I'm going to work from home that week and keep an eye on the kids. It won't be difficult because I'm putting the older one in charge of the younger one. He will be doing the laundry, making breakfast and lunch for both of them, and making sure the kitchen and dining room stay clean. He said it's unfair to make him work over spring break. I asked him if he thought it was a full-time job to do what I was expecting of him. He said yes, it was a full-time job. I pointed out that his mother and I both have full-time jobs and still manage to do everything that he is whining about. He called my mom to see if he could stay there for spring break. She tried to tell me I was being cruel to her baby. I asked her her what exactly her and my father would have done to me if I had yelled at her for not doing my laundry. She said that it was a different time. I said if he could stay with her, if she was willing to tell him in front of me all the punishment I endured when I lived at home. She said he could not stay there. Am I the a-hole?
So yeah, I don't believe you're the a-hole, OP. It sounds like you're giving your sons things that will turn them into good adults. I don't feel and I don't subscribe to having kids not touch stuff. They need to have chores. They need to learn what it takes to live as an adult. I think if you don't teach your kids how to clean, how to cook, how to do the basic human things, that when they become adults, when they are basically just bumps on a log, that is your fault. So yeah, I definitely believe that you're on the right track. They sound spoiled. It's not like you're abusing them. And the best part for you is it doesn't sound like they're spoiled. You say your kids are spoiled. So at least you're aware of it. Your kids will thank you later in life when they're adults and they actually function and are good adults and are good partners and are good parents because they had a good parent teach them how to be a good parent. So yeah, that's just how I feel.
Well, let me go ahead and just let you know Reddit's verdict, and then I'll read a couple comments. Their verdict is the father's not the a-hole. He has every right to punish them accordingly, especially according to what it is that was the issue to begin with.
Yeah, how dare you say that to your mother?
But let me go ahead and read two commenters. For the first one, not the a-hole, but in addition to having him learn about the household tasks your wife normally handles, you also need to find out where he learned this behavior. Is he listening to incels on the internet? How could he possibly think yelling at his mother about his laundry was something he could or should do? I think you have a deeper issue that you need to work on with your son. I also think if your older son has been exposed to misogynistic attitudes, you should make sure your younger son doesn't pick up on it too. They both need to learn that women are partners, not maids, and that they need to pull their weight. Edited to add, as parents, both you and your wife have a responsibility to teach your boys to be good citizens and good partners. If they are going to have successful, healthy relationships as adults, they need to learn how to take care of a household and contribute equitably. Your sons should be completing household chores, not just during the week your wife is gone, but regularly until they move out. Assign age-appropriate tasks and rotate them so that by the time they move out, they have learned the skills they need in order to take care of their homes. I think your plan is a great start, and I wish you luck.
That's all I was saying. They will thank you later when they're good adults.
Now, let me go ahead and read the second comment, which actually gives the perspective of a parent that has dealt with some different issues. My son was so pissed at me for not letting him have Instagram until 11th grade, with no posting allowed, just viewing and comment before stories, and no Snapchat at all until 12th grade. And I periodically checked his phone/iCloud account to make sure he didn't add the apps and block them on Safari. To counter this, I let him have more freedom at home in exchange. I didn't nag him about his room. He could have all of his close friends sleep over on the weekends, sometimes up to 10 kids, fed them all, gave them money for junk food, and let them take over the den basically every weekend to watch movies and play video games. They could all hang out all weekend long. The only rule was no posting to social media while in my house. I'm sure his friends still posted crap on the sly, but my threats to take all of the other fringe benefits away was enough to keep it a minimum. As a result, my son had zero bullying in school. He was part of a marginalized group, so this was a miracle. No fights, no name calling, nothing. I truly believe this was because I was able to keep him off social media with his schoolmates as long as possible. Now he recognizes that really was the best thing for him and is grateful he was able to enjoy his high school years. I really think social media is the bane of this generation's existence. They're great kids in person. When they get online, they can just be awful, like most people, really.
Anonymity gives people that liquid courage, so I hate it. And yeah, if you can protect your kids and keep them away from social media, do it for as long as you can, for as long as you deem is acceptable. We practice that with our son, and I completely agree with the poster. Bullying, unfortunately, back when we were growing up, bullying stopped when school got out.
Oh yeah, nothing made me happier than when I had to walk on my way home and I'm just like, oh, it's done. I don't have to deal with the comments anymore.
Next week, but for these kids that are plugged in from the start, it starts the second they wake up to the moment they go to sleep. And
which is so unhealthy.
I think we as parents now going forward and future parents, you got to look out for them because there's so much that goes on in these phones now. So yeah, I completely agree with that last poster. We did it and I think it's worked out for the best. But every parent's different and we're not advocating for any of that.
For some parents, they might not have a problem. For others, it might be a very big problem. It just depends on the situation.
Well, as our stories come to a close, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We are regularly posting on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We would love to hear your viewpoints in the comments section below. All of them make us smile and definitely provide us food for thought.
And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.
Happy Friday!
Happy Friday.